good to have you, and you're looking well. So thank you for joining us. So we've got a two-part session. So just for everyone that's just joined us now, and for those that will be watching the recording later, this is an in conversation, part of the Step into Action digital conference, an action-orientated conference, first of its kind. I'm joined by Ant Moorhouse, who is the CEO and founder of Earththec, also a good friend. Ant, it's lovely to have you all the way from Australia joining us today. So welcome officially and formally to the conference, and obviously to the theme. I'll just give everyone a little bit of an overview of what the session's about, and how they can get involved as well. We want to try and create an immersive experience as best we can. So the title of today's session, or the conversation, is about creating global tech partnerships to scale positive impact. What does that mean? So basically, we're going to learn a little bit more about what Ant's doing with Earththec, how connecting social innovations with investors, philanthropists, and organizations to support their impact initiatives. And Earththec obviously is on a mission to find, support, scale, and celebrate the world's leading grassroots social enterprises that are developing solutions to the world's biggest challenges. And we know there are a whole host of challenges, and the SDGs have mapped those out locally, regionally, and globally. So obviously, Ant's vision is to transform 1 billion lives by 2030 as part of the Decade of Action, and moving that in terms of the global goals agenda. For everyone listening in and online, like I said, this is part of the Step into Action conference. If you are social media savvy and you want to post, tweet, share, like whatever it is that you do on social media these days, please do remember the following hashtags: STEP, Better World, and obviously QuantumEffect. My name's Zubair Anwar Bawani. I'm the joint CEO of Quantum 5, and I have my comrade in arms, Firoz Patel, in the chat room there, taking questions and answers. And if anyone wants to pose any questions to Ant that we haven't covered, then please feel free to do so there, and they'll be relayed across. And we'll do our best to try and incorporate that. Also, if anyone wants to connect directly with Ant, please feel free to do so. You can find him also in the conference. I'm sure he'll be walking around the corridors at some point, Ant, right? And also on LinkedIn, find out more about the work he's doing, and obviously the amazing impact that Earththec is making. Now, this session is part one. So just to inform everyone, this is a two-part session. I'll be talking to Ant about what Earththec is doing, his vision, his mission, sort of what it's all about, and some of the challenges and issues around that, and how to move that forward. And then part two, Ant, you're going to join me as co-host, and we're going to be meeting some of these amazing people that you've been working with, Miriam, Maria, Fela, and Rafiq, who are these amazing social entrepreneurs that have been changing the world. So if you're listening in right now, or you're listening in later, stay with us for the duration. This is a two-part session. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And okay, so welcome to Step. Thank you for joining us. Like we heard, you're sat in Australia. How's things going over there at the moment? How are you finding the world from your perspective?
Surreal. I spend my days in a country that is lucky. We're an island, and there's not a lot of COVID, and it's an island that is relatively wealthy and relatively stable, and I'm struck almost on a daily basis as I get up in the morning and go for a surf in the ocean that is relatively plastic free. And the place I live in the community that I am part of, and quite frankly, my entire kind of experience from birth has been privileged, and for whatever reason, I can't really understand why, even right now through COVID, that situation continues. Yeah. And so I'm struck by a daily basis on, what are you going to use that privilege for?
So,
and how are you going to not waste that?
yeah, I'm sensing, just reading your kind of facial expressions and listening to your tone, that you use the word privilege, but I think you feel blessed, right? You feel that you've been given this gift, and I've known you for some time, and I think that's just a reflection of your personality, but also your will to change the world, and we'll come into that. So that's a nice segue. I want to understand a little bit more about your story. Obviously, like I said, we know each other, so we've had this conversation before, but for the sort of purpose of helping other people jump on the journey with us as well, tell me a little bit about your story, but also I want to know about how you and Brian met, and where did you get the inspiration for both Earthtec and Together in Action? And I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that Together in Action is a movement. So tell us a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah, so I guess in short, I'm in my third career. So the first career was a decade in the Australian military. A bunch of that was spent in the special forces, leading counter-terrorism teams after 9/11, and it was it was a mission-driven, purpose-led, high-performance team, and I don't believe in that mission anymore. I'm a bit of a pacifist now, but man, getting out of bed in the morning and going to work with a group of people who are on a mission, something bigger than themselves, bigger than making money, it's really powerful. And I did that job for a fairly long time, and then had a itch that needed to be scratched that I didn't know what it meant at the time. I didn't know how to put a label on it, but it turns out the label is entrepreneurism. Building something from scratch, a blank sheet of paper. And so I did that for about 14, 15 years, and very bumpy road, almost went bankrupt 3 times. Just really, really difficult. But sort of, made it in the end.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's
a 14-year overnight sort of success story.
I'm sure there's some lessons learned there as well. So that's conversation for another day that entrepreneurs that are listening in can take lessons from as well. So yeah, but please continue.
Yeah, well, it fuels, those lessons, those scars really fuel the third phase, which is what I'm doing now, which is all about social enterprise. And in many respects, at least in my own brain, it's a merger of the first 2 parts of my career. So I had this passionate, purpose-led, action-orientated sort of career. Then I went into this entrepreneurial stuff, and so now the third career is social enterprise.
Right.
And I see that as a merger of these 2 things. It's a merger of a purpose fueled approach with the mechanisms of entrepreneurism and innovation, and dare I say it, capitalism. But capitalism is a mechanism to achieve a purpose. So capitalism is not the purpose. Balance sheet isn't the purpose. Valuation isn't the purpose. The purpose is the impact. And so Earthtec, for me, is really the rebirth of what I learned out of those 2 careers. And various people come into your lives at exactly the right time. Just when you're ready. And so for me, that was Brian. I'd finished my entrepreneurial side. I was starting to get obsessed with social enterprise. And the backstory, ever so slightly to that, was I was in Boulder, Colorado for 4 years, and I was investing in some tech startups and mentoring, young entrepreneurs. It was good. It was great. But the people that I was trying to help, that they kind of looked like me. They were well educated, developed world backgrounds, generally white, very much male, trying to create a company that sold gadgets to whoever would buy it. And ultimately, while it was exciting, it was very unfulfilling. And it was at that point that I found social enterprise as a way to really combine these 2 things. This desire that I had to, I don't know, do good, whatever that meant, but using a pathway which was exciting, fast, that wasn't scared of failure, i.e. entrepreneurism and innovation to generate the outputs. And if I may, you know, through my military career, my backup plan was always the UN. It was always international non-government organizations. You know, my bachelor degree is in that world, my master's degree is in that world. But whenever I was around the world on various things, I loved the people in the international development world,
Right.
but I didn't love the mechanism.
Okay.
To be honest. And so what I'm trying to do now with Earthtec is sort of create an environment that really fuses this social enterprise space. And so when I met Brian, I was wanting to do something with really epic scale in the social enterprise space, fusing innovation and venture capital with a focus on impact. And Brian had run some TEDx events for 3 years.
Right.
He's an artist by trade, very much focused on the environment. He's all about user experience and technology. And so what brought us together was that technology, if directed towards purpose, can be a driver to create exponential impact. And I'm coming at it from this scale approach, and he's coming at it from the fusion of art and energy and user experience and using technology to generate results. And then at that time, this was March 2019, we were seeing Greta Thunberg's movement take off, and these young people on the streets, like millions and millions and millions of people who had an awakening. Not really seen since arguably the 60s or in the civil rights movement. And we were just fascinated by it. It was like, wow, like this is so powerful. But then we asked ourselves the question, what happens after the protests? And how do we engage this new generation, which is so unique because they're hyper-connected, they're born digital, and they really understand the power of their dollar. And then coming back to a finance kind of capital markets point of view, what's happening at the moment, which has never happened before in human history, is that the very, very top of the financial tree, which is like pension funds, you know, retirement funds, like the Norwegian sovereign wealth fund, their contributors are getting younger and younger, and their contributors are 21-year-old law students that are taking legal action against them because they're not being good custodians for the planet. They're not factoring in the risks of climate change in their investment decisions. And so the most old school capital industry in the world is standing up and taking these young people extremely seriously. So 70% of the world's capital markets come from these retirement funds, these pension funds. And so they're rapidly changing. And what that's creating is that as you come down, you know, you come into private equity and venture capital and, you know, publicly traded funds and all this sort of stuff, all of that filters down from the top of the tree, which is these pension funds. And they're scared of the 21-year-old students who's taking legal action against them because they're not taking their sustainability seriously enough. So what that's created is a new investment category, and impact investments. And I know we've been speaking a lot about that sort of stuff in the last couple of days, but that's basically where we operate within Earthtec. The problem that we're trying to solve for is that impact investments about to become $1 trillion industry, and the smartest money people in the world are moving towards it. And that means a lot to me because I don't want to be wealthy. I'm not into that. But money is just currency. Currency is energy. And if you follow the energy, and if we can point the energy at the right things, then we can make fundamental change. And so I'm fascinated that the money is moving in the right direction. The problem is that all of that money is stuck. It can't be deployed because there's not enough projects. There's not enough sustainably focused projects, innovations, startups to justify their money. Then at the other end of the extreme, and we're going to speak to, you know, some incredible global change makers shortly, you get these grassroots innovators where I'm equally obsessed, where real innovation comes from the source of the need. And so people like me, 42 years old, white male, living in a country like Australia, has no right whatsoever to tell someone in Nigeria or the Philippines or Bangladesh what they need to do for their community. They know. And these young people are so smart.
And I think, just to interject, I think that's the fundamental point, that we make a lot of assumptions in the development sphere, and I'm talking globally, all of us are party to that, whichever organization you represent, that we can't make those assumptions anymore. I mean, you highlighted the point that these young people are well aware of what their rights are. Not only that, but how to act upon it, and that's a precedent in itself. You've mentioned a few amazing things, and I'm just obviously making notes as well, because they're going to be little gems that we'll quote later. I just want to go back to a point or 2 points that you made. We'll talk about capital and the flow of capital in a little bit more detail, because I'm curious to understand a little bit more about the funnel that you talked about and the flow of energy. But just going back to your point about you having this idea of wanting to scale, and for those people that are listening in that are on the entrepreneurial stroke doing good journey, so profit with purpose, basically. So for people listening in or thinking about starting and having this big ambition like yours and a big vision of global level impact, were you scared at any point of thinking that big? First part. So cast your mind back. And also, is it okay to think that big? Because we all have a role to play in this world. We all have some part in addressing the issues and the challenges that we all face, indirectly or directly. We know that the 2030 agenda gives us a 10-year pathway of changing our habits and lifestyles and adopting new approaches so that we can address those challenges collectively and collaboratively. But is it okay to think that big? As I don't want to quote a 1980s TV series, but can one man make a difference?
That's a great question. So to the first part, I'm scared right now.
Right.
I'm scared about. I'm scared about talking to you and this international audience about our epic vision. I'm scared about not achieving it. I'm scared about not delivering for the young entrepreneurs that we're about to see. And so I just keep coming back to the mission, always back to the mission and back to the problem. And the problem is the existential crisis that we face. And so, at Earthtec, we make a lot of mistakes and we fail like a lot. But we're failing forward, and we give ourselves that permission, because to not do that means that we're satisfied to move slower. And it means that we're satisfied to let other people do more of the scary, heavy lifting.
Okay.
And all of the science suggests that we don't have time for that. So we don't believe that there's another way to go. And very specifically, and for your community, for this community, I think that the world has just changed. 2020 just changed the world. And the international development community and governments and bureaucracies and corporations have held quality and getting things right as the pinnacle of doing your job. And I believe that is now secondary to speed and momentum. And so, it's the 80-20 rule. And so we are moving as fast as we possibly can, because everywhere we look, if we are not doing that, then we risk not completing the mission. And the mission goes to 2030, and the mission is the SDGs. And it's not part of the SDGs. It's not a few of the SDGs. It's all of them complete complete. And man, imagine if like 1 million or 1 billion people could kind of just throw away the paralyzing need to not move until you're 100% right, and we just crack on. You know, we can do this. We can absolutely achieve the SDGs. And so not everybody has to think globally, and I think that most people don't. And I question this within myself. You know, could I have more of an impact in my local community? I'm not sure. You know, and so it's not for everyone to think big, but some of us need to.
Do you feel that you're doing enough? You seem to have this sense of responsibility weighing on your shoulders, and you know, just listening to you as well, you just feel like you are a man on a mission. Do you feel that you've taken on everyone's responsibility? Is it that important to you?
No, I've only taken on my responsibility, but it's a big one.
Yeah.
And the Earthtec team is only, you know, my co-founder Brian and my team and the entrepreneurs, 1,170 social entrepreneurs that have put their hand up and come through our process this year, and the 150 judges that have come together to pick the best teams, and the 34 organizations that we're now trying to support to get funded to grow their impact. You know, all of them have taken on an enormous weight, but that's the mission, you know. And you know, every time you turn on the newspaper or read turn on the television or read a newspaper, you're seeing the problem. The problem's there. You know, I always come back to World War II, and again, I'm a pacifist, so I'm not talking about war-like mechanisms, but I am talking about coming together as a society around a mission where everything else just kind of starts to fade away. You know, many of us who have families, grandparents, etc., who went through that war, learn stories about how all that entire generation, depending on where we're coming from, and you know, again, I appreciate the sensitivities associated with that, but there was entire societies rolling up their sleeves to join the effort, you know. And again, pacifists, this crisis is far bigger than that, but this is an all-in, roll up your sleeve kind of thing that we're trying to achieve here. The SDGs aren't going to be achieved you know, inside the UN General Assembly.
Yeah.
It's going to be normal citizens, normal businesses, normal academic institutions, and I think the real heroes out of this are going to be the innovators, the ones that are creating new products and services that directly solve for the biggest challenges in the world, whether they're social or environmental. And so they're the people that we're trying.
And we'll talk to some of those shortly as well. And I think, you know, as you've highlighted, the SDGs play a powerful role in us navigating some kind of direction, but also the space, and they provide this lovely, beautiful, universal language that we can all sort of work around. You talked earlier about sort of capital and stakeholders or sustainable capital flow in that regard. So I just want to go back to that, and you mentioned about global funds, pensions, etc. What are the changes that you feel we need to make to enable sustainable capital flow towards the grassroots innovations that you've talked about? And I'm talking about global funds such as pensions, obviously, because from the way I've understood it and from my own sort of observations, they don't seem to invest in grassroots work. Maybe it's not worth their while. Maybe the return on investment isn't there. What's your take on that? And how can we sort of encourage, you know, through our collective networks of partnerships and like, how can we encourage those people that make those decisions to channel funds to these guys that can impact the lives of billions of people, as you said?
Yeah, so great question. So the way we see this is there's 4 key stakeholders in this. Obviously, there's the capital markets. Secondly, there's the entrepreneurs. Third, there's organizations, whether they are businesses that have got, for example, CSR programs. And I'm really fascinated by CSR programs because they used to be for the junior representative in the marketing department. Now they are senior roles because organizations realize that they have to take that seriously. And then the other part of the organizations is the not-for-profits that are having to find new ways to achieve impact because the traditional ways aren't moving the needle enough. And so, we've got this 4-sided marketplace. And so we've got the entrepreneurs are the heroes, the capital markets, the organizations, and then the 4th part is individuals, and particularly talented, experienced individuals. Let's say the marketing manager at Coca-Cola, who after a 30-year career is kind of getting a bit sick of making sugary drinks in plastic bottles, wanting to do more. And so what we're trying to do is bring these 4 constituents together to build a bridge. And the bridge that needs to be created is between the grassroots entrepreneurs who are struggling to get the capital and, ironically, the fund managers who have got all the capital that are under pressure to deploy the capital, but there's not enough projects to invest in. So they're under equal pressure. And so what we're trying to do is build a bridge between those 2 worlds. And the way that we do that is by trying to lift up the entrepreneurs to get them more investable, and by creating a pathway to enable the investors to invest in particularly emerging market teams, but teams from all over the world that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So, for example, through our process, we now have a website, in essence. We call it an innovation platform, where there's a bunch of incredible entrepreneurs that have come through our process, and there's a lot of due diligence that we've done and these judges have done, and a lot of mechanisms around governance and risk and compliance and impact. So we help these organizations to be able to articulate the impact that they're trying to achieve. And then what that enables for the investor is that we've kind of done a bunch of the deal origination work for them. So within that platform, there's organizations that are looking for 75 million US. And so now the big capital market guys can take these teams seriously because, unless it's $50 million or $20 million or $5 million, they don't have the mandate to come down. So we're trying to build the mechanism so that they can come down market, basically. And because the irony is that the fund managers want the most exciting innovation, and the innovators want the best investors. And so all we're trying to do is create a bridge between the 2. So some of that is about education, some of that is about building a pathway and stepping stones of trust and a safety net. And then the other part, particularly on the side of the investors and the philanthropists, they got to take more risk. They have to take more risk.
Yeah.
Full stop.
And we're gonna bring the those amazing people that you're talking about, the entrepreneurs, and then we can get to hear from them. But just before we do that, I've just got one question for you that's just sort of sprang to mind. Obviously, we've got a sort of a holistic understanding of what technology and innovation can do to help humanity exponentially scale positive impact. I think we all get that. And you talked about, that you teamed up with Brian, but I think, from our conversation today, but earlier conversations as well, I think I've come to the realization that we can't do any of this on our own. We all need to team up, right? We're all in the world together. We've all got our own challenges and issues. We know the SDGs, certainly for the next 10 years are here, and that kind of maps out what the problems of the world are and possible solutions as well. So my question really to you is, or my sense is that you've also realized that you can't achieve everything alone. And we all have a role to play, as we discussed earlier. And you know me, I've been championing partnerships for forever, you know, goal 17. But if you have a wish list of what type of partnerships or what do you need, what would that look like? You know, so what are your gaps at the moment? What do you need most, and who would those ideal partners look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, we created a program which other people are calling a movement. I don't think you can call anything that you create a movement. That sounds convoluted. But yeah, it is called Together in Action, and it's trying to rally people that are from the four sides of this coin. You know, the entrepreneurs and the individual experts who want to lean in using the number one asset that they have, i.e. their career, and organizations that are really trying to move the needle, you know, not just saying the right things, but really doing the right things and doing them really seriously. And then the capital markets. So for us, they're the four, but ultimately for us, you know, this is just a sphere of networks and nodes. And so, you know, it's kind of all of us, you know, and it's an overly generic answer to a specific question, but the core elements of this are the international development community, because they're the ones that know what really great impact looks like. And in particular, they're the ones who know what the last mile, like impact at the last mile. A technologist can't work that out, and an academic can't work that out, and a funder certainly can't work that out. So the impact community is critical. Then you've got the business community that has an enormous opportunity right now, because their customers are demanding change, and there's really great brands out there that are jumping on board impact because they have to. You know, their customers are demanding it, and business has an amazing opportunity right now to jump onto the right side of history. And then, you know, then there's definitely the financiers, and that starts with the people that have $5 to give per month, all the way up the food chain. And then there's the true heroes, which are the entrepreneurs, because they're ultimately the ones that are creating the change. You know, imagine if someone out there that can come up with an iPhone, and I'm not talking about a phone in a box that also plays music. I'm talking about the next thing that can change society in a way that is focused on impact. Like if Steve Jobs was around right now, he would be a social entrepreneur. You guarantee it. And so all of these young people out there that are putting up.
But I was just going to say, I would love to see Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, you, and a handful of other people, 3 of which are on this chat at the moment, and some of them are attending the conference as well. Yeah. All in that room together. That would be an amazing one. And I think it's time for us to bring in the other people, because we hear what they're sharing with as well. So for those of you listening in, please stay on. We're going to bring in some amazing people, as Ant said, change makers. We're really showing some tremendous impact. So technology again. We're going to have Miriam, Maria, Fella, and Rafik joining us, and I think we're going to need a little bit of help with technical stuff just to get people in the room. I can see Rafik is there. Yeah. So fingers crossed, we've got everyone in. So I think we're just waiting for Miriam and Fella.
Yeah. So Miriam and Fella, looks like Miriam's coming in, are both from Nigeria. I think the most incredible entrepreneurial ecosystem. So many of the young change makers that we've had come through our process have come from Nigeria, but the internet is really difficult.
Yeah.
And so what these guys are doing in difficult circumstances is extraordinary. And so there's a chance that, you know, Phila can't come on because the internet is difficult. And so, you know, we have to fix that over the journey, because there's this enormous entrepreneurial ecosystem bubbling to the surface. And so, yeah, Mariam, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't hear you.
Great. So,
okay.
So
yeah, I can hear you guys.
Good. Rafiq, can you give us a thumbs up if you can hear us? Yeah, and Maria. Excellent. Okay, so Ant, you're now going to switch. You're going to change hats. You're going to be my co-host now, and we're going to talk to these amazing people. So just to set the scene again, we're now back in conversation, and we're talking to Mariam Aluma, Maria Wilvenat Anora, Fela Akin, and Rafiq Islam. Apologies if I've mispronounced your name. That was not the intention. We are talking about the amazing work that these guys have been doing, scaling positive impact, being under the leadership of Ant Earthtec, and this mission and movement, I think is right to say, Ant, together in action. So Ant, do you want to just set the scene of who these guys are? We'll let them introduce themselves, but if you could just set the scene of who they are, how you've got to know them, and what it is that they're doing, and then they can give perhaps a couple of minute intro about themselves in their own words and about their business and their enterprise.
Yeah, fabulous. So I'm really proud to introduce these three incredible change makers from Bangladesh, from the Philippines, from Nigeria. They are the very, very tip of the spear of the 1,170 teams that have come through our process this year. Very, very grueling, trying to find the best social entrepreneurs in the world to then connect with organizations and experts and investors. And so Rafiq came through our cohort 1 pre-COVID, and we've been trying to sort of grow together through all of that difficulty. And Wilvi is from cohort 2 that we've just completed from Together in Action, and Mariam also was cohort 1, and they're just inspiring young people doing extraordinary things at a grassroots level.
Fantastic. Rafiq, do you want to just give a couple of minutes introduction about yourself? Tell us who you are, where you're from, what's your favorite drink, coffee, tea, and a little bit about your business as well.
Yeah, I think I can go second or third because the sound of azan is going in the background, the prayer call. So.
Okay. That's fine, alhamdulillah. So maybe Mariam, we start with you first.
Oh, me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi. Okay. Hi, my name is Mariam Aluma. I am a software engineer. I have a master's in IT management, and I've always believed that tech has the ability to solve socioeconomic issues right from my university days. And this is what has led me to start Hobby. And basically what Hobby does is that we try to connect people who have items they no longer need with those who need them, because we saw that people were hoarding items, and they were hoarding them to the extent that they got unusable, they degenerated, and they ended up being disposed wrongly, which disrupted the environment. So Hobby exists to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
Great, fantastic. Maria, same question for you.
Thank you.
All right, so hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so I have a chemical engineering and an MBA degree, and I also have corporate experience in the areas of strategy, innovation, finance, logistics, quality, and project management. So, but I'm passionate about sustainability. That is why I co-founded the social ventures Ato Ani and Ato Ani Biopack. So basically, Ato Ani enables a data-based recommendation using a produce-to-demand sustainable agriculture model, which is what we're trying to implement with Ato Ani. While Ato Ani Biopack works on creating biodegradable packaging using byproducts from the agriculture sector. So it's really in the agriculture sector. So during my free time, I volunteer to support organizations tackling mental health awareness and also access to basic needs. Thank you.
Wow, amazing. Rafiq, same question.
Yeah, hi everyone, people around the world who are watching us. My name is Rafiq Islam. I am from Bangladesh. And my favorite thing to do is listening to political speeches. Coming from that, I have experience in organizing political rallies in village people. I have experience in doing community works in the village areas and training and development for the managers in for-profit and non-profit organizations. These are some of the experience that I had previously. And around a decade ago, almost a decade ago, I met two most wonderful people who are the most important, also most important people in my life, is Faisal and Anas, and together we founded Safeway back in 2018. In coming times, I'll also talk about more what we do at Safeway. So for now, that's it. Glad to be here.
Great, thank you. So listen, guys, you're amongst family now, so relax, be yourself. The hard part you've done. That was to introduce yourself to everyone that's listening around the world, everyone that's at a conference. Now it's just sit back, relax, tell your stories in the way that you feel comfortable. If you get stuck, that's fine, don't worry, we're here. We're all part of we're all on the same journey, so just sit back and relax. And I'm going to hand over to you. I know you want to walk us through the kind of process and the journey that these guys have been on to get where they are. But also, I'm keen to learn a little bit more about some of the success they've had, but also the journey that they've taken and the role technology has played in moving them to where they are right now. So I'm going to hand over to you, and I'm going to sit back and enjoy the rest of my coffee.
Awesome. Do that. So yeah, we might start with Rafiq, and just tell us about the genesis story of Safewheel and where you're at now in your journey in this incredible enterprise that you've started.
And so I think Subar, Anthony, and many people here most of them are probably from Australia and some other countries. So if you are hungry now and if you order a pizza or a burger, it might take maximum 20 minutes, I guess. And a lot of competitors are there to reach a burger or a pizza at your doorstep within 20 minutes. Someone gives you hope that we deliver pizza within 15 minutes. If 1 minute late, money is back. So there's this one part of the world where competition is going on with this. And then there are many developing countries, including Bangladesh, Philippines, and other part of Asia and South Asia, where unfortunately you do not get an ambulance within an hour. So this is hilarious, like 20 minutes for a pizza versus more than an hour for an ambulance. To be more specific, in Bangladesh, we have just one ambulance for 88,000 people, and most of which is not properly working. So to summarize, in my country, Bangladesh, if someone wants an ambulance, he or she does not get in within an hour. And even after reaching an hour late, it takes a lot of money that villagers cannot afford. The scenario is specifically for the village areas. So at Safeway, we found out that the core of this problem is because the conventional ambulances are very costly and they cannot reach the narrow village roads. So we have come up with an innovative yet very simple solution, which is a mini 3-wheel ambulance that costs very less and now can reach everywhere. We have done a pilot back in 2019, and then with the help of Earthtec, we have raised our first $50,000 as seed round. We have also got some other money from Acumen Academy, have been selected for some other funds. And I am very happy to announce that in next coming weeks, 2 weeks, we are getting into revenue with our first commercially launched ambulance. So what we did so far was not commercially, was to test the process. We have done pilot in various areas of Bangladesh with different vehicle. Now it's validated. We are ready to go in the market. So that's what we do at Safewheel, and that's why we are progressing. And we have also, in the last couple of months, incorporated the company in Singapore to give the investors more confidence to put their money in. This might also be beneficial to the potential investor listening in here. And then a subsidiary in Bangladesh. All have been done with the help of Earthtec and Ant. As Ant was saying, we have been going together. So Ant especially have been a mentor to us of course, as a business partner, and also has been in a personal level. He's been teaching me how to manage a small team, how to do leadership, and everything. So glad to be here. Glad to share the story with you all.
Excellent.
And what about you, Miriam? You know, what's happening in Nigeria that created the genesis for your journey with Hobie? We might come back to Miriam if she can get the connection going. What about you, Maria? Tell me about what's happening in your world, and perhaps particularly, because what I love about your story amongst many things is that there's really 3 generations of powerful women in your family that are included in Atoani,
Yes.
right?
Well, all of the co-founders are women, so yeah. So as I mentioned, can you hear me? I come from the Philippines, so our country is really an agricultural nation. My grandparents are farmers themselves, but you know, most of the farmers here, they are old and they have low income. So in fact, if you would look at statistics, the average age of the farmer is 57 years old. So just imagine nobody would want to go into farming, and they're earning a little as $100 per month. So apart from this, they have to deal with a lot of problems like low market prices, the multiple distribution layers, and the crop losses. So with this, what happens is that the youth do not want to become farmers anymore because they do not see farming as a lucrative career. And if this continues, I'm afraid we wouldn't have many smallholder farmers in the future. That is why we need to do something right now. This is what inspired us to start Atoani. So most of the solutions available right now, may it be physical or online, only aggregate the existing crops that are planted by our farmers. So crop wastage is still prevalent, you know, even though you have e-commerce. So conventional farming is still heavily practiced because there's no incentive to actually switch to another one. So and the current solutions do not really go down to the grassroots level. So the same set of problems still occur. So what we wanted to change in this is that with our produce to demand agriculture model, we will use data. Actually, we have a platform right now, produce to demand agriculture model. We use data to ensure and assure demand for our partner customers to provide recommendations to our partner farmers on the type and the quantity of crops that they need to produce through our analytics platform at Ani iCrops. So with this, farmers have an assured demand to reducing crop wastage. And we also try to ensure the good level of productivity. So we really get involved with them, training them and supporting them along the way. And on the logistics sides, we actually additionally incorporated a local for local prioritization model in the platform so that we match our customers, partner customers, with partner farmers that are near the area. So you reduce cost along the way. So it's cheaper for customers as well. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Ant.
Thank you. Hey, Miriam. Thank you, Mary. Can you hear us, Miriam?
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. So yeah, tell us about, you know, the genesis of Hobie and your personal motivation behind it, and how you're trying to get you know, celebrities and influencers involved in this movement that you're creating.
Yeah. We started actually in 2016, and that was a period of recession in Nigeria. And area where everybody shared this general bin where we dumped our trash. And whenever I went to throw, could have easily been fixed to be reused. And I knew a couple of people at the time who borrowed money from, you know, his company's cooperative to afford such items. You know, the company ended up deducting a percentage of his salary every month to pay back, to basically get back the loans, and that dented his savings. So basically, this inspired me because I've also been a beneficiary of free cycling. I was raised by a single mother, and there was a period in our lives where people free cycled their unwanted items to us, and that basically helped my mom to save a lot of money in raising us, and she could pay for our school fees and other important things. So this basically set me on the journey to understand how do I bridge the gap between those who have unwanted items and those who I go through the regular route, because I'd already come across several solutions where people would just basically post their request, oh, I need this item, or I have an item to give. I wanted to incentivize the process. I want fun and engaging. So basically that is how Hobie started. I decided, because at the time I had a full-time job, so I decided to start with a Facebook page where I would upload items. Who needed these items had to like and comment to get them. And this page basically grew rapidly. 2 years, 12,000 followers before I saw that, you know, to create a more sustainable and scalable solution, which brought us to where we are today. So our app now basically is our app basically has been designed based on all the observations we made, running the Facebook page for in Nigeria, anywhere in Nigeria, can upload their own unwanted items. But where it gets that to get these items for them using our virtual tokens of the app, which we call buzzes. And buzzes basically can be earned when users perform certain acts, such as signing up or inviting their friends. And they can also be purchased, which is how we generate a revenue to sustain the app. So Hobie has grown. We have had a lot of, you know, users signed up, especially we experienced lockdown period. We engaged with celebrity social media influencers. We asked them to give us their items. You know, we had this Instagram live, and during the Instagram live, you know, they would showcase items they were recycling, how long they are giving them away, and this sort of triggered, you know, their own fans and followers to up items they no longer. And during, you know, the 6 months that we were on lockdown, we have nearly 3,000 users signed up on the app. Had over 1,000 items recycled on the platform, and items worth over $7,000 have been obtained for less than $2,000. So we've helped people also save a lot of money. So that's why Hobby exists. Basically, we're just trying to while also encouraging reuse which benefits the environment. Thank you.
Thanks, Mariam. So, Maria, maybe you could tell us about your vision for 2030 and what you and at Atoani are going to sort of drive towards to achieve that. And maybe a little bit cheekily, you could tell the audience what you need in terms of partnerships.
All right.
And help to get there.
In top of the things that I mentioned earlier, to illustrate what 2030 looks for us in terms of global goals, I'd like to start off with where we started. So our venture formally started in 2019, and now we have our own farm in Kanbuhat. Then we've expanded this year in collaboration with to support 20 farmers, because there's a need for it, because we have existing customers that has grown the demand. So this expansion this year is in collaboration with ESEP, that is supported by UNDP, PhilDev, and Australian Aid. And next year, we are actually committed to expand in Cebu in collaboration with World Vision Philippines. So they has this potential to, focus, to cover more farmers and more land area in the area of the Central Visayas, where we have focus right now. So at this rate of how we do it, we see Atoani's agricultural model, the produce to demand model, in 2030 to be implemented not only in the Philippines, because it's twice 10 years. So I wanted those partnerships as well, but to other agricultural countries, such as in Southeast Asia, where we have the same topography, who are experiencing the same set of problems that we have. So with the use of data from these countries, where we can also potentially expand our platform as well and involve the farmers in training and guidance. So I think it can be successfully implemented with the right set of partnerships, may it be for partner customers, partner farming communities, partner organizations who would help with the expansion, is what we're doing right now. And so if you're interested, you can always reach out to us, and also to what Ant is doing at Earthech. And so, and the vision, it's really just making significant impact to host small hardware farming communities, one farming community at a time. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Maria. What about you, Farik? What does Rafiq? What does 2030 look like, and what does that mean for SafeWheel, and what help do you need to get there?
2030 would be a year for me where not just me, but all around the world, we have reached sustainable development goals. We have zero hunger, good health, quality healthcare for everyone. That's from a global perspective. From SafeWheel perspective, we want to see a world where people, no matter where they are from, no matter how much they earn, are getting access to emergency healthcare service. And emergency healthcare service must be, number one, accessible, number two, available, and number three, affordable for everyone in the entire world. That's the big vision that we see at SafeWheel. Probably we alone as an organization cannot make this happen, because it's a big world, a lot of people over there. So that's where right partnership needed, like Together in Action, and not just Together in Action, Earthtec or SafeWheel, Mariam, or whoever is listening. It's a big world. It's a big problem, but we are a cluster of huge organizations and partnership. So right partnership among these parties can actually very easily, I believe, solve this problem. So to summarize, yes, 2030 is a year for me where we are living more happily and sustainable lives in case of energy, climate, and of course, very much, of course, healthcare. That's most important to us.
Zubair, one of the things that strikes me about these three individuals, but then the top social entrepreneurs that we've had the absolute pleasure of working with this year, is that they're extremely ambitious, but they're also extremely well educated and very worldly, but they're committed to their communities, and that's absolutely what I love about it. And I think that they are the kind of ray of hope, particularly perhaps to the development community and the investment community, that, you know, if we can give them the resources that they need, wow, we've got such an amazing opportunity to solve,
I think you're absolutely right.
So many of the biggest problems in the world.
To them, I'm just like in awe. You know, these are not just change makers; these are role models, not just for the future, but even for us. You know, we can learn a lot from these guys. And you know, I'm listening to all of you, and I'm inspired, and I hope that the people listening in are as well. Thank you for sharing what you need as well. But I think one of the things that, you know, this perhaps for a part 2 as we carry on the conversation and the actions, is understanding, and also from your perspective, how you've been able to connect with this generation of change makers, because the language that speak, and I mean obviously metaphorically, culturally, digitally, entrepreneurially, but also in terms of what your generation understands. And also one of the points you made earlier about how this younger generation sees the world clearly very differently, perhaps rightly so, because they don't have the inherited baggage that we have had over the years, or perhaps they just see the world completely differently to us, and that's okay as well. So it'd be interesting to learn how you bridge that conversational gap, as it were. And I think there's definitely conversation to have in the future. I'm conscious that we're actually almost at the end of our allocated session, and there's just so much more to talk about. I don't think that we should stop these conversations. They need to carry on. Obviously, we do have to take a pause today, but even after the conference, I think that there's clearly a lot more to talk about, and clearly a lot more for us all to do. So I would like to invite all of you back to carry on these conversations, perhaps collectively as a group or individually, to help showcase what you're doing, to let others who are in the investing, impacting, entrepreneurial space to learn a little bit more about what you're doing, but also about you guys as well. Because I think, and as we've talked about in the past, it's also the personalities behind the innovation that is equally as important, because the drive of that mission and that vision and that passion, and in your case, obsession, is also equally important, as is the actual product or service itself. I just have one question to ask you as we wrap up. You took the opportunity to ask everyone what their 2030 looked like, and you know this was coming. What does your 2030 look like?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm exhausted. I'm totally spent. And it's because we're on a 10-year mission, and we'll do everything we possibly can to achieve the SDGs, because they're the best we've got. And we need to stop arguing about whether they're perfect or not, but they're the best that humanity has right now. And so what I ideally hope 2030 looks like is that we've ticked the box, like we've legitimately pulled out all of the stops, that the policy, that the capital, that the organizational structures, that the bureaucracy, that the grassroots innovation, that the education, those elements are really focused on achieving them, because there's no other game in town that really matters. Anything that we're doing that isn't focused on this is moving us, you know, moving our generations, moving our children's generations, moving our grandchildren's generations in the wrong direction. And so my hope for 2030 is that we've achieved the SDGs, which give us a platform to then imagine what humanity is truly capable of. And that's what I'm really interested in. But to do that, we have to make the planet sustainable, and we have to create equality across the whole planet, across our species. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do, but we can definitely do it. We're an incredible species capable of enormous things if we come together and focus on a joint ambition and a joint purpose, like these incredible young entrepreneurs that we're fortunate enough to speak to today.
Exactly. I think you're absolutely right that we've actually got to be unified in terms of what our destination is. The journey may be very different for everyone that's part of this, and that's okay as well. So I'd like to thank everyone that's been listening in and that's watching this later for their time to hear what our wonderful panelists have had to share. If you would like to connect with any of them, please feel free to reach out to them directly on LinkedIn, or you can drop us a line at QuantumEffect through LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to connect you via Ant, of course. If you want to connect with Ant, also likewise LinkedIn or through us. If you've got any further questions that you would like to share that you didn't get a chance to share today, again, drop us a line and we'll relay that across, of course. And again, if you're posting on social media, then do remember the hashtags STEP, Better World, and of course, QuantumEffect. I want to thank all of you, Anthony, Maria, Rafiq, Miriam, and we couldn't get our other panelists on, unfortunately, but we'll follow this conversation up again in due course. Thank you again for sharing your wonderful stories, and thank you for being both panelist and my co-host. It was an absolute pleasure to be able to listen to you, ask some of the questions, and take stock and be mindful of the impact of that. And that's something that we should look at doing again also. Enjoy the rest of the conference. There's a lot more happening over the course of the day. There's plenty of sessions going on. We've got another session later on today. In fact, we've got two, one with Monica from the Ban Ki-moon Center, amazing work that they're doing, and also with on the subject of digital democracy, amazing panel there as well. So do stick around for that. And we look forward to shaping the next decade together. Clearly, like you say, a lot of work to do. So I think time to get our sleeves rolled up. Thank you again, panelists. Thank you to the audience for listening. And we look forward to speaking with you in conversation very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.